And I want to start by telling you a quote I read recently. Speakers speak to inform. Leaders speak to influence. Speakers speak to inform. Leaders speak to influence. If I was to ask you about the difference between those two, between informing and influence, you would say, well, come on, it's obvious, right? It's trivial. They're different things. Informing is providing information, providing data, providing facts, maybe doing a little bit of analysis, maybe even a little bit of opinion. That's providing information. And I have said that I've been a speaker for 10 years now. I used to work as a business analyst. And every quarter, just like a job, I had to compile reports with statistics, research analysis, market research, KPIs, budgets, etc. And I would stand in front of a crowd of 30 project managers and I would tell them, our expenditure is over budget. Our income is under budget. Our projects are way behind. We are not meeting our KPIs. What I thought I was doing was influencing the project managers to fix the problems. But I wasn't. I was simply informing. Anybody else was thinking of what to jump back? Just do reports and provide information? No. Well, if you ever attempted to do it, I used to do a lot of tables and charts and graphs and presentations, all kinds of different. And the one thing I learned, pie charts. If you ever have a temptation to create a pie chart, stop and tell yourself, is this the right chart? And if you the answer yes, the next question is, really? There's rarely a time when a pie chart is the right thing. So let's talk about influence. What is influence? Influencing is the shaping of people's thoughts, of people's beliefs, of people's attitudes, and people's behaviors. It is the shaping of people's thoughts, of people's beliefs, of people's attitudes, and people's behaviors. Now, in the world today, we are surrounded by what we call influencers. Up to 30 years ago, you had to write a book. You had to do lectures. You had to talk to a lot of people to be thought of as an influencer. Today, you can just go on Instagram and be an influencer. Might sound easier, but it's actually more difficult because there are so many struggling for a voice, and most of them can't find one. So I want you just for a moment, just for half a minute or so, in your own head, just think of who you think are great examples of influencers, modern or past. Just think for 15, 20 seconds, who you think are great examples of influencers, modern or past. And now turn to the person on your left or your right, groups of 2 or 3, and tell them who you thought was a great example of an influencer. And if you have nobody to speak to, you can speak to me. Who do you think was a great influencer? Who can tell me who was one of their greatest influences? Gandhi, great influencer, right? Influencing through passive action, right? Passive resistance. Daniel. Steve Jobs, great influencer on all of us. Nobody would have iPhones if it wasn't for him. Anybody else influences? Churchill. One of the most finest men who influenced with nothing but words. Words from the heart. Any other great influences?
Yourself?
I'm trying. I'm working on it. I'm getting there. Halfway through my first book. What's Hitler a great influencer? He influenced thousands of people to stand up and kill others. Good or bad. Influence can be good or bad. Trump, what a great influencer, right? Not judging good or bad. History will judge. Jacinta, what an influencer. Not only for politicians, but for women in particular. Somebody mentioned Gandhi. What about Thomas Jefferson? Anybody thought of Thomas Jefferson as an influencer? True. Maybe that part of him was also an influential part. But without Thomas Jefferson and the founding fathers, we may not have a modernist constitution the way it exists at the moment. I want to go even back further in time. Plato. If anybody's a buff of ancient history, of philosophy, how about a little bit closer to home? Can anybody think of somebody who is not famous as an influencer? There is always one smartass who gets it right. The biggest influence on your entire life is your parents, right? Well, that's what I think. But apart from your mum, what is one of the strangest traits that influencers exhibit? Now, if I was to tell you something that we all know, something obvious, you need to eat well. Well, we all follow that anyway, right? We try, we know that. I'm not going to influence you. So what is one trait that all influencers have? Hitler, Gandhi, charismatic, yeah. But all influencers are revolutionary. Mandela was a revolution. He tried to upset the current system. Many influencers are so revolutionary that people will try to kill them. Think of I Have a Dream, Martin Luther King. Influencers have revolutionary ideas and they are divisive. And no one like Trump has been ever so divisive. So now I want you to think about traits, character traits and behavioral traits. So there are two types of traits, character traits and behavioral traits. Traits that you think great influence exhibit. Think about it for yourself for a minute or so. Maybe jot some ideas down. Then I'll get you to, in groups 2 or 3, just discuss traits that great influencers and leaders have. Thirty more seconds.
you like you, or that word an old name place.
10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and come back, everyone, please. Did you manage to think of a few character and behavioral traits that leaders and influencers exhibit? Okay, now we're looking for 2 volunteers. I want 1 volunteer from this side to come up and help me and be a scribe. It's easier to be a volunteer because you won't be called on to speak. So I'd like to ask Kathy. Would you like the green pen or the red? Oh, that's the first speaker, so you choice, right? And the second scribe, I need another person volunteer to be a scribe. Somebody, excellent. Jacob. Is a green pen. Okay, now the rest of you. I want you to scream out a trait that you think is exhibited by great leaders, great influencers, and Kathy and Jacob will decide whether it's a character trait or a behavioral trait, or maybe both, and we'll write them down. Okay, let's hear it. Scream it out. Confidence. Is this or that? What is it? Which one is it? Kathy thinks it's character. Anything else? Energetic.
Passionate.
Energetic, passionate. Where does that? Empowering. Communicate. We'll slow down. They're not that fast at writing.
Sure, that's right.
Yeah.
It's like competing.
We'll get some. Appealing to emotion. Okay. I think leadership will be an overarching trait that encompasses everything all together.
Well-groomed.
Appearance. I'll give you a couple ideas that normally by this time most would come up. Honest.
Integrity.
Honest. Integrity. Is that here or there?
Character.
Yeah, see, that's a controversial one because theoretically it's a big one, right?
Yeah.
So just damn it.
What about resilience?
Resilience. How is resilience a trait of a
Behavioural. Someone who consistently is consistent.
So consistent.
Yeah.
Perseverance, determination.
Yeah.
Someone who's neutral also. Like neutral doesn't take any side of it. Like good and bad, but he's just neutrally.
So perhaps he's able to see both sides.
Yeah.
Right?
Let's see like.
Okay, the quack.
Humor.
Humor. Is that a necessary trait?
Yeah.
Let's talk.
Contemporary, yeah.
Yeah. So if you guys are funny.
Everything is going through the
It has to be like sarcasm.
Okay. Let's write down a few other behaviors. All right? Jacob, if you can you write this behavior for me? Tell stories.
Influences. Yeah.
Speaks on message. Speaks on message. Speaks with purpose. Engages directly. When James is writing that down, you'd notice the clip I was presenting, even though there were 30 people in the room, did you often feel like she was talking to you? That's engaging directly. And Philippa's fabulous at that. Talking one-on-one. So you take the message away, even though there are 30 people in the room. Let's thank Jacob very much. What would help if you had in your character? We already mentioned integrity and honesty. Somebody mentioned resilience, but what we really meant was perseverance.
Difficult.
Ethical.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Ethical. And I'd like to add here one more. Values.
Respect. Respect for like the what you talk.
We get the picture. Thank you very much, Matthew. The last word I wrote, we had Kathy write on it, is values. I remember I was once involved in an organization where we were developing the value statement. And everybody around the table had to just throw values. And I remember this one lady said, inclusion, and cooperation, and togetherness, and write it all down. And I thought, I'm looking at a behavior, but I'm not seeing the character. This you can learn. And hopefully today we've given you some tips on how you can learn to do this. But do you know who learns this without having this? Salespeople. And to all the salespeople in the room, if you've learned this and you're good at it, stick to it. Stick to it. But if you want long life customers, long-term customers, this is what you need. This is your brand. This is who you are. This is what people will think of you and talk to you, talk about you when you leave the room. So Tips mentioned that a charismatic, influential leader. Thank you, Tips. I'm glad you think so. I'm working on this. I'm working on this while learning this. So now 1 minute we have left. 1 minute. I want you to think and discuss with the person next to you the things that you can exert influence over with people around you. What it is that you can exhibit in your behaviors and develop in your character that will make you influential. Have just 1 moment to think about it and talk to the person next to you. Ten seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. First presentation today was about structure and getting to the point. That's a behavior that speaks to the message, speaks to the truth. You can learn that behavior, but you can also make it part of yourself. In your second presentation today, you learn how to connect deeply with people, how to use the stage, how to use your body, how to use your voice. You can learn that behavior, but you can also integrate it into your own self and make it your own self. You learn to tell about storytelling, how storytelling is important. That's a behavior you can learn, but you can also apply it in every single situation in your life if you make it part of yourself. Put all that together and you will be an influential speaker, an influential leader. You don't have to be a manager or boss to be a leader. I hope you put all this together and take the best out of it and make it into your own life. Thank you very much.